Released in 2016, VAXXED, From Cover-Up to Catastrophe, has been a rallying call for the anti-vaccination movement. Written, produced, and directed by Andrew Wakefield, a doctor who lost his medical license and was discredited by many mainstream scientific communities, it comes across as a passion project of self-redemption, as well as pushing conspiracy theories and pseudoscience. The story centers around a whistleblower at the CDC, as well as Wakefield himself. And while it neither exonerates Andrew Wakefield nor proves the corruption in the CDC, gullible people worldwide have bought into its claims. As such, this series is a long-form refutation of not only the film and its claims, but an examination into who is behind VAXXED and why they made it.
What's going on, everybody? Jeff Holiday here, and it's been 7 months since the last time I tackled VAXXED. Now, I've been busy in that time. I have been researching, watching more documentaries, digging into every single aspect of Andrew Wakefield and the VAXXED team as I possibly can, compiling all this information and getting it ready to make videos for you. So, we're going to pick up where we left off before. Now, previously, we covered the MMR controversy, we tracked through the historical record of Andrew Wakefield going through fraud cases, his issues dealing with Brian Deere, and ultimately how he lost his medical license. But if we're really going to understand this broader portrait of who this man is and what he does, we're going to have to go back in time just a little bit. You see, when you really dig into the history of this controversial figure, you start to see how many directions everything started to go. As everything started falling apart for Andrew Wakefield, he was a very industrious person. He started making connections with people, started attempting to get into other business ventures, but if you listen to how he paints it, effectively, his whole life was ruined.
There was such political pressure against this vaccine safety research being done in the UK and against me doing that work at the Royal Free that it became clear to me that it was impossible to continue there.
Nothing could be further from the case. In fact, Andrew Wakefield pretty much built his entire career off of this scandal that happened. Now, I'm sure he would have rather made $1 bajillion selling a competitive vaccine to the established MMR one, sure. But that isn't to say he was suffering. Allow me to explain. Now, previously we mentioned that Wakefield and his family moved to Texas in 2001, specifically to the Austin area. Following that, he and a small group of like-minded renegades from conventional medicine went and established something called Thoughtful House in 2005. Thoughtful House was a small research and treatment facility in Austin. Now, I want to be completely clear here. They were actually treating patients at this facility.
If you are interested in receiving treatment at Thoughtful House, please call us or email us to request a patient packet. Our physicians will meet weekly to determine whether the completed packets indicate that a child would be best served by starting treatment with Dr. Arthur Krigsman, a gastroenterologist, or Drs. Jepson or Kartzenel.
As well, they were engaged in research, such as this gem, delayed acquisition of neonatal reflexes in newborn primates receiving a thimerosal-containing hepatitis B vaccine, influence of gestational age and birth weight. Man, these names are long. Whew! Now, this study, which was published in 2009, was designed by Andrew Wakefield and a woman named Laura Hewitson. Now, the study's conflict of interest section is absolutely hilarious. You see, it cites Wakefield and another author as having been paid as experts in MMR litigation, as well as Hewitson having a child currently petitioning for money through the vaccine injury legal process. And now they excuse this by saying, well, Laura Hewitson and Andrew Wakefield, they didn't actually gather any data themselves, they just designed the study and somebody else gathered all the data. So, you know, it's fine, right? Now, there's a ton of problems with this study, but I'm only going to touch on a couple because these are pretty funny. These are pretty great. The study was designed to measure reflexes in monkeys who were given a vaccine, a hepatitis B vaccine, shortly after being born. However, they added specifically on purpose a chemical substance known as thimerosal. Now, thimerosal is a preservative that we used to use in vaccines ever since like the 1930s. But because it was so controversial and because the anti-vaccine movement decided that that was causing autism, They removed it. They took it out of vaccines. Most vaccines. I think there might be some still in flu vaccines. But there hasn't been any in hepatitis B vaccinations since 2001. A study was done in 2009. So what was the point? What was the point of this? To study if you give a vaccine to a monkey containing a chemical that we don't even use anymore, and then studying their reflexes is going to tell us something about how vaccines are going to work with humans? The vaccines that don't even have thimerosal in them? What the flaming hell was this supposed to prove? Also, oddly, the study only involved 13 monkeys? Just 13? However, that's not the only problem with Thoughtful House. Far, far from it. You see, the people who were involved all had very colorful pasts and colorful beliefs. For instance, we've got Brian Jepson. He got in trouble back in 2005 for alleging he could practice medicine prior to actually getting his medical license in Texas. Oops. And then there was Arthur Krigsman. Now, remember this face, because we're going to touch on Arthur quite a bit in the upcoming episodes. But he got in trouble with a hospital, and he ended up having to leave because he was accused of giving improper and medically unwarranted endoscopies on autistic children. And this was for research purposes, not for treatment, for research purposes, medically unwarranted and inappropriate. And then he got fined because when they demanded he give them medical records, he said, nah, I'm not going to do that. And just so we're perfectly clear, yet again, these crazy wingnuts were actually penetrating autistic children with cameras at Thoughtful House.
From the Talking About Curing Autism June 2006 newsletter, recently a dear friend had their 11-year-old scoped by the amazing Dr. Arthur Krigsman out of Thoughtful House in Austin, Texas.
Now, Wakefield is not with Thoughtful House anymore. In fact, he left back in 2010 when it became clear that he was going to get in serious trouble and lose his medical license. So, he's gone. And as well, they changed their name from Thoughtful House to Johnson Center for Child Health and Development. And they're still there. They're still in operation. And not just Wakefield, but also Krigsman and Jepson. They're all gone. They've left. However, there are still some interesting people left behind. Laura Hewitson, she's still there. And she's still involved, absolutely, with their pseudoscientific, bullshit anti-vaccine beliefs. Now, I should also probably point out the reason they did that study on monkeys. Now, that's because Laura here is not a doctor. She's a PhD primate researcher. Yeah, that's right. Bring your autistic kid right on down to the Johnson Center, where we'll stick a camera invasively inside their tiny little body, and we'll have a woman who's trained in studying monkeys study them. Oh, I know. Amazing sales pitch, right? So catching up once again, Wakefield is booted from the medical community. He leaves Thoughtful House, and then he moves on to other projects, one of which was writing books. In 2010, he put out a book called Callous Disregard. Now, Andy claims his findings for autistic enterocolitis, which is his made-up diagnosis for gut-affected autism, have been independently confirmed in 5 different countries. Check this out. He cites 5 studies, 2 of which were authored by Arthur Krigsman. One was studies appeared in Autism Insights, a medical journal on whose board Krigsman sat in 2010. 2 other studies were by Italian doctor Federico Balzola. According to the Just the Vax blog, the first of these was a case report of a single adult autistic patient with an inflamed bowel, and a second, a meeting abstract that never saw the light of day as a peer-reviewed study. The last one, a study by Dr. Lenny Gonzalez, while not reporting finding a distinct autistic enterocolitis, concludes that autistic children have a high incidence of gastrointestinal disease. Now, nothing about that is a smoking gun, but it does show just how sneaky and manipulative Andrew Wakefield really is. He cites unpublished work, studies that don't actually defend him or his point of view, studies written by friends of his, and studies published in papers where this same friend sits on the board. Furthermore, after his departure from Thoughtful House, Wakefield started the Strategic Autism Initiative. Now, what did this charity actually do? Well, as seen by this graph from relevant tax data, it appears, aside from the first year, this charity pretty much just went to paying Andrew Wakefield. So, Yeah, that's a little odd. And shortly thereafter, all mention of it was scrubbed from the internet. Gone. Erased. Now, he also founded the Autism Media Channel with Polly Tommy, and like we already mentioned in episode 1, they encountered Alex Spourdalakis at this point. Now, in the course of researching this series, I realized that I need to do an entire video on Alex Spourdalakis, what happened to him, the involvement of Polly Tommy and Andrew Wakefield. So that's going to have to come up next. I don't want to shortchange what happened to this young man by just relegating it into a video tacked on at the end of something else. I really want to focus on this at one specific point. Regardless, the Autism Media Channel was designed specifically to create an autism reality TV show. This is 100% true. And this is going to be centered around the autism team who would go around the country and they'd seek out families and exploit their fear and their grief and their pain for validation and fame, I'd suppose. Hell, you can even see here in one of the trailers, good old Arthur Krigsman. Arthur, again. And if you think this is the deepest of this rabbit hole, you haven't even seen nothing yet. Now, with every passing month, I put more and more work into this series, and you don't always see it, but a lot of it involves research. A lot of it involves just sitting down and building timelines and cross-referencing things, trying to dig through broken links to find archived articles or interviews, that sort of thing. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. So I do apologize that these videos don't come out super often. But when they do, it's because it's something that I feel very passionate about and that I want to make sure that I do right. So I appreciate your patience in this manner, because step by step I am dedicated to revealing and exposing how dangerous these worst of the pseudoscience peddlers really are. These people are fucking monsters. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for your attention. If you like this video, please thumbs, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. If you want to support the channel, I got a Patreon, link in the description. Aside from that, I hope you're well. I hope your family is well. I'll see you next time. Thank you again for your patience because of how long it takes me to make these videos. And we'll be having some more fun on this channel very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.